Well, good morning, everyone. I know this is kind of a weird time that we're in, but hopefully these videos will find you at a time where you're kind of itching for something to do, and maybe you can kind of review some math facts. I'm not going to provide any new information. I'm just going to provide a review from things we've done throughout the year, provide you a chance to kind of refresh your memory on some of the concepts that you've covered either with Mrs. Weisenstein or myself, and just give a chance for you to catch back up so you're not losing any information as we take this time off. Obviously, in front of you, you're seeing a list of items I'd like to cover. This is our first kind of review, and we'll do this for the next few weeks. And the topic today is based on order of operations. So the purpose of it is so that when we're doing a math problem, that everyone gets the same answer. What I mean by that is let me write down a math problem here for you. So let's say we're doing a problem like this. The problem is, if you were to do this problem your own way and not follow the order of operations, you could get potentially two different answers. One of them is correct, one of them is not. So the order of operations guarantees that everyone will get the same answer because of the way you look at it. So the order of operations is in front of you. It's called Pemdas. That's a little acronym we use. It's parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. It's for expressions only. That means something without an equal sign. Obviously, as you look at this problem that I provided you, there is no equal sign on this problem, so we just simplify it down to a simple answer. So the order of operations says we look for parentheses. Well, we don't have any, so check. That's already done. Exponents. There's no powers. There's no numbers in the power, so we're done with that one. So we go on to multiplication or division, left to right. So as you go from left to right side, there is multiplication. 5 times 10, which is 50. Then the last step is, because now we're doing multiplication, now we add and subtract last, so your answer should be 52. Now, I did say that there's a possibility where if you were to do the order wrong, you'd get a different answer. So just to show you that fact, if you were to look at the same problem, and instead of multiplying first, you accidentally added first. So you took 5 plus 2 and got 7, and then you took it times 10, you'd get 70, which is definitely not the right answer. This is the order that we've pre-established so that everyone gets the correct answer, which is 52. Now, with this simple idea, we're gonna just practice this concept, this order of operations, a couple different times. I have 7 problems picked out that I'd like to kind of walk through. So if you have a calculator next to you, or maybe your cell phone, you can kind of click through and you can kind of see if you can keep up. And if you need to hit pause at any point, just hit pause and see if you get the right answer. Now, at the very end of this video, I'll give a link that you can go to a Google form that I'd like you to try to fill out on your own throughout the week. You can submit it. If you review all of your answers at the very end, it'll give you a chance to check what your answers were, see what the right answers are, and you go back and make fixes. It's just one of those things. It's not required. It's just an opportunity for you to continue your education. Don't feel obligated, to do every activity that I send out. It's just one of those things like I'd like you to have the opportunity to do it. So without further ado, let's move on to our next slide here. So what you're looking at here in front of you is an exponential problem. So it's 2 to the 6th power. Now, what that actually means in terms of real numbers, that means 2 times itself 6 times. That's what an exponent means. It's how many of the bases you actually have, and they're always multiplied together. It doesn't apply to addition, doesn't apply to subtraction or division. It's multiplying only. It's a shorthand. It's a shortcut for writing it. So what you're actually doing is you're just kind of going left to right and just kind of multiplying these numbers. So 2 times 2, well, that's 4. And so I'm just going to kind of show you the numbers here. So that was just the first 2. Now I'm going to keep going. So the next 2, 4 times 2, that's 8. And as you can tell, I'm just kind of going left to right, kind of going in order as I go. So now the next ones, that's 16. And then do the next 2, which is 32. And now the last 2, which is 64. And that should be the final answer. Now, obviously, you have in front of you, you have a cell phone or a computer, and you could type these in. Now, how you actually type it in different calculators. So if you have a calculator that looks kind of like mine, you can type it like this. Now, there's this little caret key. It's usually by the number 7. If you have a cell phone, sometimes they show this button. It's the same thing. It's a little power button. It's an exponent key. You hit that button, then you type in the power after it, and you hit equal sign, and it should spit out the correct numbers. It should spit out 64. again, there's a bunch of different ways you could type this in. It's just one of those things I want you to provide an opportunity to do it. Now, there is websites out there that will help you with exponentials. You could type it in Google. Google has a calculator itself, so if you were on Google, you could figure out that little exponent key. But it's supposed to do powers for you and make it quicker. Now, let's move on to our next slide here. So, the next problem here. Obviously, following our order of operations, which is Pemdas, right? I keep reminding you of this here. Now we're going into, on this problem, we look for our rules. Is there any parentheses? No. Is there any exponents? No, there's no powers. Is there any multiplying? Yes, there is. We have to do this one first. So we have to go 3 times 8, which is 24. Again, the order of operation guarantees that everyone will get the same answer. There's no division. There is no addition, but there is subtraction. So we are going to do subtraction last, which is 35 minus 35 minus 24, which should be 11. Again, it's one of those things that I want you to remember the order that we use. We only do this when it's not an equation. There's no equal sign. It's called an expression. There's no equal sign on this problem. It's just so that everyone gets the right answer. So let's move on to our next slide. So let's switch it up again. All right, so now on this problem, if we follow our order of operations again, we want to look for any parentheses. There is none. We do have exponents on this one. So the exponents is 4 to the 3rd power. So again, you could type it like that, or use the little x to the y key, or y to the x key, wherever that is. And it should be 4 times 4 times 4, which should be 64 on a calculator. So again, if you have Google or a cell phone, you could type that in. How you on most modern day cell phones, you have to like turn it sideways, go to landscape, and it'll provide you the scientific keys. Again, that's just turn your phone, on its side, so that it'll actually show you the extra keys on it. Most calculators will do that for you automatically. Now the next part is 3 to the 3rd power. So again, that's 3 to the 3rd, or with a little XY key, but it actually just means 3 times 3 times 3, which should be 27. Again, if you have a calculator in front of you, you should be able to pull that up, type it in, and again, when you're actually typing these in, just make sure that you're taking time, that you double check what you type, and make sure that you clear out your calculator before you start, so that way you didn't accidentally have anything prior typed in, so that's affecting your answer. But the final answer on this one should end up being 37 when you take 64 minus 27. And that should be the final answer. Because again, you do the exponents first. There's no multiplying. There's no division. There is no adding, but there was subtraction as I go left to right. But you have to do every rule first. Okay, let's move on to the next one here. Okay, so in the next one, if we follow our order of operations, let me write that out again. So there's no parentheses. There is exponents, so we'll have to do that part first. So 5 to the 2nd power, that's 5 times 5, which ends up being 25. And then we're going to take that, and we're going to now multiply by 2. Because again, I do the exponents first, and then I can go left to right and multiply. And again, this little dot means to multiply. It's just a different symbol other than the little X symbol that we use. And this ends up being 50 overall. There's no division, and there's no adding or subtracting on this problem. So again, we're just following the order of operations left to right as we go. Now, obviously, these problems are going to get harder as we go, as you can tell. But it's one of those things that hopefully you're trying these out. Hopefully this is making sense to you. Again, here, let me write the little order up here. If you want to hit pause at any point, you can do this. You can try these problems on your own, see if you can get it right. Most modern-day calculators, if you just type it all the way in, using parentheses and multiplication symbols and division symbols correctly, it'll tell you the right answer. But again, it's to be able to do it by hand, right? That's the whole point. Can you do it on a piece of paper? Maybe you don't have the luxury of having a electronic device beside you. Maybe your calculator died and you have to do it by hand. All right, so on this problem, we're going to go left to right. There is parentheses. We have to do those all first. We do have 2 parentheses. So doing the parentheses here, we have 4 plus 3, which is 7. When you do the parentheses, it can go away. And then in the very back, 5 times 6, which is 30. Again, once I do the parentheses, they just happen to go away. There is no exponents. There is multiplying. There's a couple, I guess there's multiplying and division, so we'll have to do that left to right. So 7 times 10, which is 70. Then we have to divide. which is 35. That's 70 divided by 2. And then we can add 30. So your last step should be 65. Okay, let's move on. We only got 2 problems left here. So in this one, I kind of provide you one that has kind of everything in it. It's got exponents, got parentheses, got some adding, subtracting, that type of thing. All right, so 3 to the 5th power. So that's, again, 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. So there's 5 3s. On a calculator, if you type this in, just use your little caret key. It should be right next to the 7 key. But when you get this, it should end up being a 243 when you type in 3 to the 5th power. And again, I know that I ignored the parentheses. When you do the order of operations, obviously I skipped out on the parentheses here first. This number here didn't affect anything. I'm just typing that in first, but I should be in the parentheses here first doing the exponents as well. So in that parentheses, I have the 10 to the power of 2, which is called 10 squared. 10 to the power of 2 is 10 times 10, which should be 100. That is 10 times 10. So I'm actually doing all the exponents at once. I should have warned you of that. But in the parentheses, 10 times 10, which is 100, I'm going to add 1 to it. So this ends up being 101. And now that I'm done with the parentheses, that goes away. And now I can subtract straight across. Because again, we've done all the exponents, did the parentheses. There is no multiplying or dividing, so there's none of this. We're going to be, there's no addition, but there is subtraction. So I'm going to subtract straight across. If we subtract, we should get 142 if I subtract 101 off. And again, this is a guarantee that everyone gets the same answer. So let's move on to our last problem here. So in this problem, I know it's kind of weird. It's got variables in it. What the book provided in this particular section of our text was, if we were to give you an expression like this, where there's variables in it, and they were to tell you that these letters stood for something like 4s, and maybe the P stood for the number 6, could we plug these in and see what my final answer is? So if I plugged in a 4 for G, they would tell us this information. It'd be provided in the problem that you'd be given. So G is a 4, and my P is a 6 here. We would go through the order of operations still. So you're looking for parentheses first, then do exponents and multiply and divide, and subtract. So in mine, I have to multiply and divide. There's no parentheses, there's no exponents, but there is multiplying. So I'm going to do that first. This makes 36, 6 times 6. And then I'm going to add 4 to it. There's no division. So I'll add last and get to 40. That's my final answer. Again, the parenthesis here means that you're multiplying. There's nothing inside the parentheses. You're just looking for exponents, and then we multiply next. But again, this guarantees you get the same answer as somebody else. That's why there's an order. Again, these numbers right here for the G and the P, they would change depending on what your variables are, what the problem looks like. Maybe there's more letters. You'd have to plug those all in first, like I did, and then just solve the problem out. Okay, I'm gonna send out a link to a Google form that you can submit answers to. It'll, after you review all of your answers, it'll show you the correct ones. You can go make fixes. It's one of those things I want to give you an opportunity to try some problems on your own, so you're not just watching me provide you answers the entire time. Appreciate all those who are watching this video and actively trying to continue your education. Appreciate that, and I'm hoping that you're staying safe and healthy. Okay, have a great week.